All right, so I'm going to do a quick video today on how to keep your kid busy in the garage. Just kidding. We're going to talk about flex fuel wiring. So I looked endlessly, even though it seems redundant, to try to figure out if there's any specific way that you needed to set up a flex fuel sensor on a Holley EFI system, which this is endowed with. I have the Terminator X Max for drive-by-wire only. And turns out there is actually some, a little bit of different stuff that you need to know. I called Holley tech support. Ironically enough, they said that the Terminator X was not set up for flex fuel, and he didn't want to provide any tech support for it. So after some Googling and a little bit of research, what I ended up nailing down was that you would think it'd be typical. It's the sensor has three outputs, three prongs. One is a 12 volt switch input for the sensor, one is a ground for the sensor, and then one is a sensor output signal. Make sure you check your harness that you buy, because the harness that I bought was from Boost Monkey, and the wires were switched around. The red wire was on the opposite side of the plug, making you think that that would be the 12 volt source, but it was on the signal side. So luckily I looked at the plug and then verified that my harness that I purchased had actually been put together wrong. Doesn't really matter, but the white wire now goes to 12 volt and the red will be the signal wire. So what you need to know, with the Holley EFI, there's an input-output harness. This is not that difficult to find, but when you decide to set up a flex fuel input on your Terminator X software, you'll need to decide which input you're going to use. On the J, A12, A3, A13, A4 would be, it basically is going to say input 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the Terminator. So mine is input 1. So just so you know, this will be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Input 1, white and blue wire. So you find that wire, that's going to be the signal from the flex fuel sensor to the PCM, or to the ECU, I guess. The next thing you need to do is it requires that that wire also be hooked up. Oh, hold on here. Let me get my flashlight on this side. My ECU is on the floorboard on the passenger side. Hold on one second. What are you doing? Okay. So anyway, you need to hook a resistor up from that same junction that you just made, a 10,000 ohm resistor, and it needs to be hooked to a 5 volt. This actually looks a lot better in person than it does on camera, I realize. You can't see any of it from up here. It's actually pretty nice. I ended up getting a bunch of buses, and usually I have the covers on them, but since I'm doing wiring right now, there's some stuff dangling. Like this is what I'm actually working on right now. This is the flex fuel junction, but here I'll show you what you need to do is pick up a 5 volt output source from the computer. And the Terminator X has a new little addition. It's a power hub, or I think that's called I don't remember what they call it, a power tap, that's what it is. So it's right here. It comes with a little plug-in. You can fish your fittings in there and use this to pick up 12 volt, 5 volt output, 12 volt, ground, sensor ground, and chassis ground. You can use that instead of tapping into the outputs that the computer already has, is using for 5 volt and stuff like that. So I needed a 5 volt. I didn't have these stupid sensor plugs, and I'm never going to use this. So I cut the 5 volt wire and I attached a regular spade prong to it right here, which you can see. This is this guy right here. And I'm running, basically now I'm running a foot. Drop my phone. I am running this 5-volt wire up here. But here's the important part. This 5-volt wire needs to have a 10,000 ohm resistor wired into it. So this 10,000 ohm resistor is soldered in line. End of story. That's critical. You can't use a 5,000, you can't use a 15,000. So we jump over here, and what I've got is, if you can see this, maybe my camera will focus. Here's that white. Here's my main harness up there with all the inputs, outputs. I pulled the white and blue wire out. I don't know why this camera won't focus, but whatever. Trust me. It's the white and blue wire. And then I have it tied in line to another spade here with that 5-volt signal. And now what you're going to do is simply, here's the 3 wires coming through the firewall for my flex fuel sensor. Like I said before, they've got them switched around. This wire is actually going to go to a 12-volt switch source when it should be the signal wire. So this red wire is the signal wire for my harness. But don't get that confused with yours, because if it's wired right, you won't have to worry about that. This is going to get a spade end, and it's going to get stuffed right into this. Then the 12-volt wire, this is mine, yours will be red, hopefully, is going to go to a 12-volt switch. I have an entire bus right here of 12-volt switch. This whole bus is ground. This whole bus is 12-volt constant, which feeds a lot of these switch buses. It actually goes up to a dash panel switchboard and starter board. There's a whole bunch of relays over there. This actually all works really well. I don't know why the camera makes it look so bad. I'm actually pretty proud of it. But and then the last thing you'll do is you'll just hook up a chassis ground or a whatever ground. So this guy is gonna grab one of the free terminals over here. Wait, this is the grounds. These are the grounds. Those are the switch 12-volt. That makes a difference. You want to get those right. I will. But, oh God, I'm just crammed in here and ready to get out. So don't overlook that. When you go to wire up your flex fuel sensor, you'll have all kinds of problems. People think that they just wire that signal wire directly into the input of their choice on the computer, and it's not how it goes. It won't work that way. Also, this is probably obvious, but it is related to physical mounting and installation of a flex fuel sensor. Don't put your flex fuel sensor on your incoming fuel line. Put it on the return. They're not designed to handle the pressure of a feed line, and they will sense your ethanol content just fine on your return fuel line, which is low pressure. So stick it in the return. Mine's on my return down here by the firewall, so you can't see it, but it's there, believe me. Little bonus tip. These are factory, I might make a different video about this, but since you're here already, if you are, which nobody probably is, these are factory truck rails. What I did to put an external regulator in is, this is actually a phony thing just here to look cool. I took this factory truck regulator off, I pulled all the guts out of it, and I welded this hole shut. Now it's just a bypass, which means fuel goes in, fills the rails, goes out through this output, which goes straight into an external fuel pressure regulator. So no, you don't have to get aftermarket rails. These rails are actually larger in diameter and support just as much, if not more horsepower than an aftermarket rail setup. All you gotta do is bypass this stupid thing. And you don't have to buy the $50 bypass plug that like 2 sites in the world sell with a 2-week time delay. I just have been too lazy to get a plug for this, so I'm just actually, whatever, that'll probably stay like that forever. So that works great. Anyway, that's all I got for flex fuel stuff. I'll make another video on setting up the flex fuel sensor in the software so that you know what you have to do just to get the dang thing to run. that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.